Fairy tales, we all know them, stories about princesses, magic, and happy endings. But what if these stories aren't as simple as they seem? What if, hidden in the pages, there are secrets, dark truths that most people never notice? For centuries, these tales have been passed from one storyteller to another. Sometimes the stories change just a little. Other times, a lot. But the mysteries inside them, those remain. Some people say fairy tales were never meant for kids. They believe these stories were warnings, lessons, or even coded messages. Why are wolves always lurking in the woods? Why do so many characters disappear or get lost? And why do adults in these tales seem so powerless or even cruel? There's a lot more going on here than pretty dresses and magic wands. Tonight, let's look behind the curtain. We're going to uncover what might really be hiding in some of your favorite fairy tales. Are you ready for the truth? Or at least for the most chilling theories out there? Buckle up. Things are about to get weird. So, let's begin our journey into the dark and mysterious world of fairy tales. Who knows what secrets we'll find, and what questions we'll be left with. Cinderella is one of the world's most famous fairy tales. We all remember the glass slipper, the pumpkin carriage, and the magical fairy godmother. But not everyone knows about Cinderella's darker side. Some experts think the story is much older than we realize, maybe even thousands of years old. In some versions, Cinderella's own family is much crueler, and her trials are far more gruesome. One theory says Cinderella is all about escaping abuse. Her stepmother and stepsisters treat her terribly, forcing her to live in ashes and rags, but it's not just about being poor. Some researchers believe the ashes actually represent mourning, or even surviving a tragedy. In early versions, the stepsisters don't just try on the slipper, they cut off parts of their feet to fit in. Gruesome, right? It's like the story is warning us, trying to force your way into a happy ending can be dangerous. Another theory? Cinderella might be a coded message about social climbing. Think about it, a girl from nothing suddenly becomes a princess. People in the past might have seen this as a lesson. Be patient and your luck will change. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a warning to watch out for those who try to change their fate too quickly. The oldest versions of Cinderella come from places like China and ancient Greece. Some of those stories are even darker, with magical birds, violent punishments, and even death. So next time you hear about the beautiful ball or a sparkling slipper, remember, there may be more ashes in Cinderella's story than anyone wants to admit. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Little Red Riding Hood might look like a simple story about a girl, her grandma, and a hungry wolf. But this tale has secrets that go way beyond the woods. Some say it's really about the dangers of strangers. Others think there's something even creepier going on. One theory claims Little Red Riding Hood is all about growing up. The red hood, some people say, is a symbol for adulthood or even lost innocence. The wolf? He's not just a hungry animal. In some versions he's a smooth talker, a trickster, maybe even a warning about people with bad intentions. In old French versions, Red Riding Hood isn't saved at all. The wolf wins, and the story ends with a dark lesson. Not everyone gets a happy ending. There's even a belief that the story is about ancient fears. In the Middle Ages, wolves were real dangers, but they were also blamed for crimes people couldn't explain. Some think the wolf in the story isn't an animal at all, but a person, maybe even a criminal or a monster from old legends. Could the story have been a way to keep kids from wandering into the woods alone? No matter what you believe, one thing's for sure. The deeper you go into the woods of this story, the more you realize that innocence can be lost in an instant. And sometimes the wolf is closer than you think. Snow White. The girl with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. On the surface, it's a tale of jealousy, poison, and true love's kiss. But just like with other fairy tales, there may be more hiding under the surface than you'd ever guess. Some experts think Snow White is about fear of growing up. The evil queen is obsessed with staying young and beautiful, willing to do anything, even kill, to keep her crown. The 7 dwarfs might represent the different stages of childhood or even the days of the week. The poisoned apple? According to some, it's a symbol for forbidden knowledge or lost innocence. Eating it changes Snow White's life forever. Another theory connects Snow White to old European legends. Some say she's based on a real girl, Margaretha von Waldeck, whose stepmother may have tried to poison her. There are even links to mining towns where children worked in dangerous mines. The dwarfs, with their pickaxes and lanterns, might be a nod to those lost children. So was Snow White just a story to scare kids, or was it warning them about dangers in real life? The truth is hidden, but the clues are everywhere. The next time you see a shiny red apple, maybe you'll wonder what's really inside. The brothers Grimm, Jacob and Wilhelm, are the names behind many of our favorite fairy tales. But were they just collectors, or was there something more mysterious about their work? The Grimms claimed to gather stories from villagers and friends, but some people believe they added dark details on purpose, turning simple tales into twisted warnings. Many of their stories were much scarier than the versions you know today. Bad characters were punished in horrible ways. Sometimes even the heroes didn't make it out alive. Some say the Grimms wanted to teach lessons about right and wrong, using fear to get their point across. Others think they were recording real legends, stories that people believed were true. There are even rumors that the Grimms hid secret messages in their tales, codes about politics, lost treasures, or even dangerous truths they couldn't speak out loud. Some researchers have tried to crack these codes for years. So far, nothing's been proven. But the idea that fairy tales could be a puzzle, waiting to be solved, is hard to resist. The next time you open a storybook, ask yourself, are these just stories, or are there secrets trapped between the lines, waiting for the right reader to find them? Fairy tales didn't come from thin air. Many are based on real events, places, or fears. In the old days, life was tough. There were wars, plagues, and dangers around every corner. People made up stories to explain what they didn't understand, or to warn each other about real threats. Some tales were inspired by crimes, others by deadly diseases. The sleeping sickness in Sleeping Beauty, for example, could be about a plague that put people into deep, deadly sleeps. Stories about witches were often warnings about outsiders or people with unusual skills. And the forests, so often the setting for fairy tales, were places where people vanished all the time. It's possible that some fairy tales were used to hide the truth from people in power. If you couldn't talk about a dangerous ruler, maybe you could tell a story about an evil queen. If you needed to warn kids about strangers, you dressed the danger up as a wolf or a witch. That way, the warning could spread, without getting anyone in trouble. So the next time you hear a fairy tale, listen closely. There might be a real-life nightmare hiding just beneath the magic. Fairy tales promise happy endings, but what if the real stories never ended at all? What if the secrets inside them are still waiting to be uncovered? For every theory we've talked about tonight, there are 100 more. Each one brings us closer to the truth, or maybe, deeper into the mystery. So, are fairy tales just stories for children? Or are they warnings from the past, hiding messages only the bravest can find? Maybe the answers are hidden in plain sight, in the stories we think we know best, or maybe the real secrets are still locked away, waiting for someone to discover them. You've heard the theories, you've peeked behind the curtain, but the world of fairy tales is bigger and darker than you ever imagined. What secrets are still out there, lost in the shadows of once upon a time? Maybe, just maybe, the next story you read will hold the key